please welcome the participants. Evgeny Kosin, Deputy Director of Cybersecurity at the Ministry of Digital Development, Communications and Mass Media of the Russian Federation. Alexei Novikov, Head of the National Center for Computer Incidents. Alexei Novikov, Director of the Positive Technologies. Vladimir Vengi, Director of Product Development at Solar, moderated by Alexei Lukatsky, Business Consultant at Positive Technologies.
Добрый день, коллеги.
Good morning, dear colleagues. I am glad to welcome you here at the third day of Positive Hack Days, PhD. And we continue our discussion on what the government does in terms of cybersecurity, because after previous discussion that happened yesterday, I read on the internet and different Telegram channels partial amazement of the fact that the government starts not just regulating this industry, but also tries to delve deeper into different topics which it didn't cover before, like information security databases, vulnerabilities, or OSIT, like BDU Stack is an example of service that the government provides as an example. And today we will continue with this discussion. Our colleagues will share their experience, their points of view, and maybe they will also share some initiatives that the government provides to increase security and protection of citizens and business. So my first question would be to Alexei Novikov from NCIRCC. For the last 2 years, you say that the National Computer Incident Response and Coordination Center, NCIRCC, is very important when there are IT companies are hacked and then those used in order to get to the sub-networks and other organizations. Is this trend still going on, or maybe we have a different leader in terms of these kind of threats? Alexei, thank you. During the last year, this trend, we saw this trend in 2023 after the beginning of the special military operation. There was a number of attacks aimed to get some kind of media effect, that there was as if there was some mass attack going on. But after that, there was a long period where malicious users were trying time after time to achieve the maximum effect for themselves, destructive effect. And in this sense, the chain of vendors, developers, people who use cybersecurity and who need more cybersecurity is now getting more and more used and widely used. Do you remember what happened in April with software for the regional information security and for the regional administration? So this was one of the clear examples. And the reason for that, well, this trend could decrease if something happens at the level of the organization, maybe at the level of developers, level of integrators. So we think this is the problem. For a long time, those who provided services in terms of implementation and development of software and different digital systems did not protect themselves. Unfortunately, this trend is still going on, and we can see multiple examples where we see an incident or at least and artifacts of an incident, we refer to the company and we tell them that somebody hacked them and you have some time to save yourself. And unfortunately, this isn't always the case, even for these organizations that should have been able to protect themselves. Evgeny, since the hacking happens through IT companies, the Ministry of Digital Environment, are there plans to set some kind of standards and requirements for these kind of companies? In order to get on the register of the domestic software, it has to go through bug bounty, it has to go through cyber range and cyber drills, and publishing the results of these cyber drills, so that the governmental organizations would understand that if they buy certain software from a domestic vendor, they get something reliable. And for those companies to be up to shape and actually provide security and not just try to get in different registers and tenders. And obviously, this kind of work is going on. There are some difficulties that not always the development segment is public, and the reason is that it's connected to the outer sources. The bug bounty deployment might be a very weak correlation, even though we do think that it's very important to have pen tests and bug bounty and all kinds of events that would test an ability of the system. And this is what we do in our ministry. We have about 15 different bug bounty contests and very good results. Still, there is a register of domestic software where we upload data on vulnerabilities, on removed and fixed vulnerabilities, and this area will develop. It will develop in the sense with the implementation of those vulnerabilities to do it faster, to do it better, more strict requirements and standards. There will also be a follow-through removal of vulnerabilities. For example, there could be product in the product and all of them should not have any vulnerabilities. We have this kind of work. Okay, Alexei, question to you. In terms of the industry, what do you think about bug bounty? Is this useful in terms maybe comparing to certification of software by different laboratories? Is this like a replacement or is this an addition? And do we need them for this kind of bug bounty programs for closed loop or maybe only for business? Good morning. I wouldn't say that one thing should replace the other. I think we should use all of them together. And by using bug bounty, we get additional results in terms of increasing security on the software and developed systems. So I'm not really sure about the closed loop of developments. I haven't seen these, never. Well, what I mean is it should not have public resources of companies. Maybe you're just not allowed to work with this. Okay, if I'm not allowed, I better not ask any questions. But in terms of our practice, when we investigate different incidents with supply chains, IT integrators, vendors, and so on, I think 3 days ago there was a published report in Confluence vulnerability. So in a few weeks, we will have other incidents for developers because Confluence is on the perimeter. They have accounts, they have different nodes, they have lists where the software was sold. And then after those were hacked, we have different incidents in different companies. So the company which gets into bug bounty will clear this because investigators, because white hackers know where to go and what to do, even better than many companies themselves. And once we have this kind of stories with vulnerabilities, they will be able to get the results. If this is applicable or not applicable, they provide reports, and thanks to this outside pressure, the companies will remove vulnerabilities, work with DevSecOps, and I think this is a good trend. Thank you. Vladimir, over to you. You are very relaxed. We are in white and you're the only person in black. Please answer us. If your company would face requirements to do bug bounty? How long would it take you to implement bug bounty in your company? There are three different bug bounties, and let us talk about them. The most popular one in the world, this is what's done by State Information System, is the bug bounty of public resources and public networks. Obviously, this is for a very short time, maybe a few weeks, and then we can publish the results. Next, there is a bug bounty promoted by pillars of our information security, bug bounty for inadmissible events, a different level of pen tests, like everybody can do whatever they want and just find the vulnerability. And here, there are a lot of organizational issues in terms of approving different activities, so we have to provide the security of half of governmental informational structure, and we will not be allowed to do so unless this is approved by the government. And we run bug bounty for state uslugi, gosuslugi for at least a year, 12 months, maybe even more. We were preparing for the bug bounty. And finally, bug bounty for the software you develop. And I think this is the fire, this is the great story. And once we have a moment when Russian players, not just Russian players of cybersecurity, but the whole software, the register of the domestic software, and you should have a box checked that your software was checked during bug bounty, and you have to do this. I think this will change the industry, and everybody would have secure software. I think this is very good. Vladimir, you bypassed my question. Are you ready to take upon a commit to perform any bug bounty? Number one, number two, number three. Well, number three. Well, some regulators are against that. If regulators would approve, if they would tell us, okay, let us move into this direction, we are ready. Okay, the next question then to Alexei. Probably it's not a secret that the majority of organizations we have in our country do not have SOC or security operations centers or even experts, team to respond in terms of information security. What can you recommend them right now? What can be proposed by National Center of Incident Response and Coordination? Some companies might feel that they were hacked, or maybe they want to avoid the situation, or they know that they will be hacked, but they have no idea where they should go. So what do they do right now? If they care about this, this is already good. If they ask this kind of question, what should they do if they were hacked? This is already 50% of success. On our behalf, on our side, I think we've been working on this for 10 years, and this was a set of services which help maintain a system protected and secure, and to be able to withstand and counteract state-of-the-art threats and vulnerabilities. And we develop this set of services, and currently we want to launch a new level, another area, when we provide some additional services for organizations, how they can respond to different incidents. So let me be brief. I will try to be brief. We've significantly improved our capabilities on finding out potential incidents in RUNET. We have a lot of different infrastructural elements that both provide security of RUNET, but they also provide an ability to withstand adversarial attacks. And using these tools, we can take a look at the country from above, and once there is, let's say, a family of adversarial attacks, we will be able to see incidents of infiltration in different regions, maybe for dozens, for hundreds of Russian organizations. And this is what we face, the problem. When providing this kind of information, you have an incident, you have to take measures. And similar incidents happened before. Previously, they developed like this, and in 2 weeks, it ends in destruction and basically deletion of information inside. But the percentage of the organizations, of the owners of informational resources who are ready to use and to find this kind of activity in their infrastructure, I think is very, very low. It's ashamingly low. And that's why there is a need to provide this kind of assistance. And assistance where people would come for help, and assistance first and foremost as a kind of consultation. This is the first point which should be done, to get a consultation, to understand what track they should take, how to have the whole range of activities in order to respond to different incidents.
По аналогии, знаете, с таким тем,
Just like in how
в здравоохранении, да, по аналогии
help is organized in healthcare, so similar to emergency response. Yeah,
сервиса в области реагирования на компьютерные инциденты.
are thinking about the same way of responding computer incidents.
Скоро сможет получить в бесплатном
An
режиме
organization that have encountered a computer incident
содействие в
will soon be able to get for free assistance in doing some first aid
набор
help.
которые связаны с
It's mostly about set of activities related to the localization
проникновением злоумышленников в инфраструктуре, то есть
of the wrongdoers' penetration to the infrastructure. So getting a full list of compromised resources, containing the spread, and building a plan to handle the problem looking forward. We see this schematic in such a way. So an organization that has encountered this or that has got information from us that there are certain signs of an incident, it can turn to us for help and get a certain list of services from us. One needs to be, but one needs to be prepared at least to share information so that we could analyze them in our infrastructure. We are hoping very much in this for the help from the leading companies in the industry. We understand that it will be difficult for us to cope with this project on our own, considering that there are so many different owners and computer attacks, computer incidents that we are experiencing now. So therefore, we invite
сотрудничеству, взаимодействию все сообщество, по сути. Вот примерно
The entire community basically for this kind of collaboration. So this is what we have in mind. Thank you, Alexei. I understand that it's very difficult for me to manage the discussion between two Alexeis. But the question to you, is Positive Technologies prepared to take part in this first aid to respond to computer incidents? Yes, indeed. The comparison, the analogy with ER in healthcare is absolutely spot on. Quite often, when we go to respond or communicate with our customers regarding incident response, another analogy comes into play about firefighting. So you first need, in order to be able to start work, you need to extinguish the fire. And only then to do something else. This is actually a very good initiative. It heralds a new turn of the spiral in the development of the industry. In 22 and 23, when the operative headquarters under NSKI was set up, where the regulator, together with some commercial companies in the industry, were able to quickly respond to incidents. We took part in this initiative at that time, and we keep taking part in that. And of course, now, once this new thing arrives, we'll be happy to join, doing whatever we can, because quite often it's much more important to respond to an incident, to help companies investigate it, and then the companies will themselves decide where and how they would be moving on. So it's about social responsibility. So it's a free service. Yes, indeed. And looking back, we as a company have been doing this for quite a long time. I think in 2023, about 40 to 45% of work to respond and investigate incidents was done for free. So, to help companies. But because companies affect each other, and you start investigating an incident in one company, and then you understand that it actually arrived from another company, and they have this connection to a third company. So in order to contain the spread as fast as possible, you need to make sure that you conduct these investigations as smoothly as possible. Okay, thank you. Vladimir, are you ready to take part in this virtual first aid? We've been doing this for the past 5 years, or more than that. When I'm revising all the price plans and things like that, I saw prices for help in investigations, for social help. No, it was just like a service, so it said that people can turn to us. So my first idea was let's just take this item away from the price list. Frankly, I don't know where it got directly to commerce. It's becoming commerce. Maybe when companies address us with this, it's considered a service. But when the regulator comes in, then we never refuse. Actually, companies could actually measure who is responding faster. Actually, you could add who is responding not only faster, but with a higher quality. Yes, I agree. Actually, considering that you've started getting into this industry quite recently, when these prices are announced, when companies want to get guaranteed help, because yes, indeed, we have a limited number of fingers of our hands and hands on our body. You said 6%. No, we have enough hands to list companies who are indeed able to provide fast response to incidents that happen. And frankly, I'm against a situation where there are customers, okay, we have an incident, let's call company X, Y, Z, but please work for me. There are no doubts about the professionalism. Well, yes, there are examples of cooperation when large infrastructures are where companies work together. But when resources of 3 or 4 companies are spent mindlessly for the same commercial organization, analyzing the same hard drives and things,
То есть нужна координация.
companies that are able to do that is limited. So you need coordination.
Вопрос к вам.
Well, now that we're talking about coordination of efforts, question to you, Evgeny. colleagues from SKI got this idea of the emergency response age. Ministry of Digital Development, it does have the anti-fraud system. It doesn't work as a service responding to citizens. It works on its own. You work with the operators transparently and noticeably, just like anything.
Гражданин или бизнес может прислать вам некие адреса по
Could
адресу, который он считает
does it work so that any citizen or a company could send you a list of addresses that they believe to be harmful? Well, they can try to do it now. As to the phishing, more than 180,000 websites have been blocked, depending on the jurisdiction. Yes, of course, you can send in a complaint. The service works through government services. It's available both.
Непрерывно на предмет фишинга с копированием изображений госуслуг, там, каких-то различных
images of state services,
кто обратился
other large organizations.
необходимость того, чтобы их тоже контролировали на предмет того, что в отношении них.
Спасибо. А вот у вас еще есть такой сервис, был недавно
You also have a service that you announced recently called Scanner. What's its purpose? Well, the objective of Scanner is in scanning, as it is not difficult to get from its name. The scan systems for vulnerabilities, and this work has started quite broadly as part of industry regulation, scanning, providing information. So it's kind of a Russian shutdown. Well, one can compare them. Perhaps of the publicly available services, it's yes, perhaps yes.
Спасибо. Алексей, а вот
Alexei.
НКЦКИ и у ФСБ в рамках
NCIRCC, the Federal Security Service, as part of the Order 2013 approved recently. There's also a mechanism to protect information for organizations that fall under President's Order 2015. Is it the same thing as Scanner, or is it different? Well, it's more of a personalized look of the year that elapsed since Order 213 was issued.
Для тех организаций, для кого это, на кого это распространяется.
At the perimeter for the organizations that it applies to. So it's actually about regular automated control, plus once some vulnerabilities are found in broadly distributed software, it's also done out of plan. As to the scanner, it's a system focused
конечно, на
internet.
Попытки снижения
So it's actually an attempt to reduce the attack perimeter within the scale of the entire country. If you take the vulnerabilities that were found last year in Bittrex, we actually trialed all these mechanisms, scanning and then user notification, and went all the way to blocking, because these resources were used to attack all sorts of resources, including government ones. So these mechanisms add to each other, are complementary to each other. And Scanner has this focus on the mass segment. I would add a bit now that we've got to the question of
не будем называть там номера постановления, я думаю, все их знают. по углубленному анализу для систем различных государственных
We
организаций, и в
have
том
a
числе
program for
как
deep analysis
методические
for government organizations, and
как это используется для регионов.
also
В том числе,
it is
то есть
used
это
for regions.
описание самой
This
инфраструктуры,
includes
глубокое
the
погружение
description
в
of the
индивидуальные
infrastructure,
отношения системы
a
с
deep
углубленным анализом
individual
и
dive into the
защищенности, в том
system
числе с
with a
возможностью
deeper
поиска
analysis
киберкомпрометации и
of
так далее. То есть достаточно
protectedness
углубленный анализ,
and
в результате
search
которого даются
for
рекомендации, и потом уже даже иногда, ну точнее иногда, с
possibility
дальнейшим,
of
осуществляется контроль по устранению данных
being
уязвимостей.
compromised.
Такие работы тоже ведутся, и вообще этому
So we
уделяется
do
серьезное
such
внимание,
work
наряду уже
and
с упомянутым
pay
баг-баунти.
a lot of attention
Баг-баунти
is
для
paid to
программного
that,
обеспечения,
in
в том числе
addition to bug
операционной
bounty.
системы
And bug
настоящей тоже
bounty
существует, и
for the
теперь уже
software
есть,
at
в том числе, в
the
частности, в
operating
Украине.
system level is also
Алексей, вот вопрос к
used,
тебе. Я
including
тут
private
как-то
companies.
случайно, как
Okay,
Владимир
Alexei, question
вчера
to you.
на дискуссии заявил, глазом подсмотрел в список случайно
I
фортинетов, которые
mentioned
доступны извне в российском сегменте интернета.
well, all by chance,
И это
I
достаточно удручающая
saw a
картина,
list
что несмотря на
of
то, что как бы
segments
иностранные вендора уже 2 года
that are
с
available
фишингом
in
ушли из
the
России и
Russian
до сих пор продолжают
segment
использовать
Fortinet.
эти
And
продукты.
you see that
И отсюда возникает вопрос. Там, к
even though
кризису
foreign
1
vendors
января 2025
left
года,
Russia for 2
когда
years now,
продукты
people
из
still
недружественных
use them.
государств
And so
должны
the date
прекращать
is
использоваться
coming up
на большом
when
количестве
products of
объектов. То есть вот
non-friendly
нет ли опасения,
governments,
что такого рода
states
инструменты, которые
should
рассказал и Алексей, и Евгений, будут
be
использованы
should no longer be
для того,
used
чтобы
in
давить на
critical
компании,
infrastructure
чтобы они
organizations. Is there any pressure
одномоментно
that
выводили из
is being
эксплуатации
made on companies
средства защиты,
to
которые, в общем-то, не обновляются, взаимодействия,
remove
которые взламывают. Вот здесь
security
есть найти
tools that are not being
баланс
updated, where the
между интересами там, национальной
vulnerabilities can be
безопасности государственной и желанием
exploited?
не
Where to find the
вендора, а
balance between
заказчика
the interests of
продолжать
national
пользоваться тем, за
security
что он заплатил,
and the
и
desire of the customer
что у
to
него
continue
есть.
using what they have paid for, what they have?
Да.
It's a question to me. Yes. Well, actually, I think that everybody has had quite a long time during which they could plan migrations or other decisions. It's clear that in 2022, where in many companies software became useless, that was how that frankly when in 2023 and 2024 you see a company, and the example I'm talking about with Cisco ASA, so they had one incident and they tell you, so we're going to withdraw it. And then in 4 months, they're calling us again. And again, we see this Cisco ASA in the perimeter, again unpatched. And frankly, I would have fired such people from the industry. Please don't look at me. Yeah, I would give them a black ticket and say, hello, I don't know which analogies. It's like, putting your hands for the second time in the crocodiles. Well, I don't have any explanation why people do that. Evgeny and Alexei, are you going to scan organizations that still use tools that come from unfriendly states that shouldn't be used with the tooling you have? Do you have plans, and are you able to do that? We are busy identifying
обладают уязвимостями, которые можно
assets
проэксплуатировать, либо скомпрометированы и используются.
bring
Вот эти вещи мы ищем. Если
threats,
там те же самые
so either vulnerabilities or others. If
необновленные обладают уязвимостями, мы их тоже находим.
a thing like
Точно так же
an
уведомляем о том,
unupdated
что
Fortinet
доступ в угрозу, там, обратите внимание. Вот
has a vulnerability, we identify them as well, detect them as well. As to the task of finding non-import substituted software, we don't have it, and most likely we won't have it looking forward. But if we see a device at the perimeter,
в котором это тоже будет указано.
of an organization that is vulnerable and not allowed, they will get respective notification. Okay, I would actually suggest that there should be some kind of national SLA for removal of such critical vulnerabilities, because we often also find critical vulnerabilities in the internet, and we notify colleagues about them, and they say, yes, thank you very much, we're going to patch it, and then 2 or 3 weeks pass and they have an incident. So that's bad.
Когда уязвимый сервис на периметре, и вот тут вот, наверное...
So when the configuration is insecure, when a service is vulnerable at the perimeter, maybe it would be nice to have a government-level initiative to help companies get rid of such things. Well, I would split this question too. The first part is about the removing of vulnerabilities, which is not always related to import substitution. And the second is about import substitution as such.
Потому что все-таки этот процесс ускорить, и замещение такое произошло, по крайней мере, в тех
Currently, active work is being done in this direction, and substitution has been done for or will have to be done for all such systems that fall under
обеспечивать необходимую защиту.
Вопросы
контроля, я думаю, что будут
to the control and monitoring question, I think decisions will be taken based on the size of the problem as the deadline comes closer. All I think that a lot of tools are used in the internal infrastructure, which is not seen very well from the outside.
Спасибо. SLA это, конечно,
whether they will be applied, it's a different question. That's a great story. So one by the other, we're going to arrive at some requirements, and then people will start complaining. Again, the regulator can only come up with some requirement. But look, yes, we have lots of information about vulnerabilities, problems, incidents that we're bringing across to the owners of Russian resources. And so we see all too often that people are not taking measures, which pushes us to an idea, why not, instituting some mandatory condition SLA. Well, this should be the headache of security officials, reminding people all the time that they need to do that. One, of course, can do this to infinity, but the responsibility rests with the operators of such systems, and it's up to them. As a regulator, the ministry and other regulators in information security, we are taking measures to incentivize these companies to protect their infrastructure better, help them, provide them with coordination and consultations. But nevertheless, it's up to them at the end of the day, because it is their responsibility, and it comes at the expense of their budgets. Yes, thank you.
И так сложилось, что у многих российских компаний, вендоров, появляются свои НГФВ. И так, опять же, почему-то сложилось, что компания называет свой продукт Solar НГФВ, ПТ НГФВ. У коллег из Минцифры для борьбы с фишингом есть система анти-фишинг, для борьбы с фродом система антифрод. Здесь есть какой-то, видимо, момент, связанный с неймингом этих решений. По твоему опыту, вот нет какой-то творческой составляющей в придумывании названий для продуктов, тем более, что ты отвечаешь за продуктовое развитие.
That you are responsible for product development. Yeah.
Я бы сначала начал с предыдущего. Подожди, дай я добавлю ко всем про сканер. Мне кажется, тут очень
Let me
важно
add
подсушить.
to what you said about scanners. I think you should let things dry a bit, because I've seen a regulation some time ago where blocking is mentioned. If you let it dry a bit, we in this country, dear colleagues, have got a unique practice that was once tried. So I just wanted to explain it to everyone. If you have a vulnerability and the government starts paying attention to that, then the government will not only help you by bringing you some appeals, but it can actually fully block you. And that is a very cool story. It really motivates, it should motivate everyone, because you have to start tidying up your external perimeter. Drawing the medical analogy further, one can remember that there's such specialization as a proctologist. Well, yes, but it's not the first time we're talking about naming.
определенной компании. И как говорим, давайте прям название придумаем. Придумали название в виде названия компании, класс продукта. Название компании, класс продукта.
Remember companies wanting to find a good name.
Давайте прям назовем.
There's this second attempt. So basically it's about NGFW.
Не очень понимаю, почему в продуктах
Next generation firewalls. I don't know why it's not solvable story. So maybe we'll be able to do that. With services, that is already happening. We're already opening, and each one has 4 or 5 letters.
Может быть, из сервисной модели это перейдет
в продукты. Вообще, почему it's not too bad. So maybe this will migrate from service models to products. And the reason why it's not happened, there are 80 plus technologies. Take any area, security, SOCs, and there are all these CSR, ERP, and all sorts of things. The problem is that companies are confused as such. So even if in terms of marketing, let's not confuse them further. So,
Alexei.
And you just call the product with the company name and then the class of solution. Alexei, do you want to add anything? So interesting subject. While services are called differently. Yes, everybody is trying to hide the same service under the new name. Well, I'm not going to be trolling you out of the respect for the organizer. Okay, let's move on then. Evgeny. Just recently,
запустить систему
Ministry of Digital Development had this idea of launching a system of professional certification, jointly one of recruitment portals. What's the demand for this in Russia now? We understand that all sorts of ISAC with the systems and systems IC2 went away, so you can't get certified. But is there a real need to get to build our own certification system? Isn't it about replacing concepts? So instead of teaching people, we're thinking about issuing them papers. Well, I will split this. There's the system of national regulation and the certificate issue system is there. Then I think back to the question that you have in mind. It's about the need of business, how the industry is interested in having some independent analysis of specialist level. And unfortunately, the responses do not correlate with practical interests. If you ask anyone, they will all say, yes, a system like that is a must. But when it comes to developing such a system, companies don't seem to contribute. So basically, you are not able to go further than saying, yes, this system is needed. So yes, the ministry has started to work, even some results have been achieved, but as far as bringing it to the end, especially understanding how everybody would treat those certificates, it has been done. And it's not because the government doesn't need it, it's because there's no clarity about the industry needing that. So everybody doing it lip service, but nobody shows any support by their actions. So this is still in the works. The story is not over. It's far away from any sizable results. Okay, thank you, Alexei. I have an observation to make. Again, from our pain points. All the discussions about professional certification, improving the quality, improving the professional level, only work within the community. For myself,
в масштабах страны оцениваю емкость это как аудиторию всех профильных конференций.
I assess the capacity within the country as the number of people attending industry conferences. Actually, it's about a third of those specialists addressing information security issues in the country. Those examples or cases, those incidents that we come across working in different regions and organizations show that there are not enough professionals in information security who are interested in threats, problems, their own professional.
Которая на самом деле больше, да, чем все сообщество, с которым мы с вами общаемся. Вот как до нее достучаться?
And this is actually a bigger community. And how do we bring this information that we have new threats, we have new vulnerabilities, there are incidents going on. And this is a task, this is the problem we are actively now trying to tackle. And this kind of events like the PhD Festival, Positive Hug Days, it expands our view. And people who come here, well, they try to solve the problem, but how do we reach everyone else? Well, maybe we should think about this. I would like to continue this topic. When we are talking about the improving qualification, it's not just a badge, it's not just a certificate. We are talking about the maturity of the whole industry in terms of information security. Here we need different areas, and actually to form the understanding of this is actually a need. We live in an IT world. And information security is a part of it. It's hygiene, like you wash your hands, like you brush your teeth, like you look left and right when crossing streets. This is an inherent part of our lives, and this will always be the same. And we have to take certain measures and develop it too. People who understand this, well, there are many people who understand this, but unfortunately not everyone in the industry gets it. Just like Alexei mentioned it right now, we have to talk about it constantly, incessantly, all the time, all day, all night, so that everyone will be on board. And many events, not just this one, but also we will have this moving on, we will have this improved maturity of our society. Obviously, what we have with our hygiene, obviously the questions regarding control and management and potential sanctions, different ways to control. So we have these three main areas, and obviously talking about this information, sharing information. Okay, Evgeny, Alexei, questions regarding awareness. In corporate sector, it's quite popular when they have phishing simulation attacks. And by the way, on PhD, we have a social engineering contest in order to get to some closed-loop areas. It's actually a very interesting case. But are there any platforms or services for people who work in the government and would allow to have this constant phishing emulation or simulation attacks? and increase their awareness. Well, actually, not just a service on phishing simulation, it's basically a methodology, it's a way to increase awareness, and they are performed within the organization. But when we're talking about the government, currently, at the moment, these are a part of cyber hygiene via Gosuslugi portal through multiple different events. And for example, just some time ago, a metro, subway, train had different ads that talk about cybersecurity and cyber literacy, and this will go on. So we had this kind of events, and obviously we used phishing simulation attacks, and we will have this kind of practice in the future too. So we can imagine that through Gosuslugi portal, the ministry will increase and raise awareness by sending phishing attacks. Well, obviously not directly through Gosuslugi portal. I think this would be wrong to do so. I think this is a task for SOCs, Security Operations Centers or SOC centers, organizations that provide security. But how should we manage different phishing attacks? Yes, the website provides educational information and documents. I mean, Gosuslugi website provides necessary information what to do with these kind of attacks. Alexei, Vladimir, I think you want to add something. For training and raising awareness of experts who work in the government, in our structure, obviously are an inherent part. So we do this on a constant basis. We have this simulation phishing attacks. And that is why, so you had this question, right? How do we work with people who work in the government? How do we raise their awareness? Well, previously, we actually had a large-scale training for state officials and people who work in the government. Yes, I would like to share a few words on this. There is this general cyber literacy for the general population, for the general people who work in the government. And honestly, we all should understand when we are talking about the social aspect of our organization, this is the least part we can do. If nothing else happens, if we gave up all the technical measures we had before, and we think that we have to do something else, then the last step, the least efficient thing, would be to increase awareness of the general population. That it doesn't really matter how much we shout at the top of our lungs, this efficiency will be very, very small compared to any technical measures. So first and foremost, we had a certain number of talks and negotiations with big platforms that recommend have two-factor authentication. Sometimes it's a necessity, sometimes it's an option, and then they say that you should not give your second factor authentication password to anyone on the phone, and then the efficiency would improve. So in general, you have to understand that overall efficiency is very low. So you do not agree with the Ministry of Digital Development? No, we actually agree. We started it 18 months ago because you had to do something at that time. You can talk a lot about difficulty, complex attacks, about supply chain, which is very popular at the moment, but the main threat for organizations is going through social engineering. It doesn't really matter if it's malware, if it's Trojan, this is the main factor. The social engineering is the main aspect. So first of all, we have to work on all the defensive mechanisms on email, working with banners. You should not open this email, this is a phishing attack. Double check, triple check all the malware through the antivirus, and after that you start with social engineering because it is ever present. And I hope that that program that was in the Ministry of Digital Development for 2 years will continue in some form, because we do have to do this work, just like with the general population. But here is a point when working with digital population or general population, raising awareness awareness for our citizens basically results in a single point. We teach them to mistrust communication. By this or by that, this is the end point. And here's an example. Citizens, especially in the central regions, learned, they were taught by parents, by TV, that they should not stop on the road and help bypassers, because unfortunately this oftentimes it ended not well. And in general, citizens never stop to pick up bystanders. Is this correct? Should the government tell them that we lost this war? You never believe this communication channel. Do not trust them. If they call you, this is wrong. If they write you a message, this is wrong. If you send an email, this is wrong. And this is a very fine moment. Should we actually want our citizens not to believe the main channels, or maybe we want to create a story where we will be able to trust this communication channel, that this is always trustworthy, and that's more about technical part rather than social part. I would actually disagree. It's not about trusting or not trusting the channel, it's understanding potential risks. It's not like people don't stop. It depends on the situation, especially if we're talking about big cities. Yes, we're talking about mega cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, but once you go away from Moscow region, you have to go further. You have to go to the east, far from Moscow Circle Road, because you have to stop, you have to help other people. It's impossible to live without that. But in Moscow and St. Petersburg, the risks are different, I agree. And when the risk of potential damages is higher, they won't stop. But when the risk of potential damages is lower, obviously you can stop, you can help bystanders, it doesn't really matter. And this is what the government should do. I think this is the same. It's not like you cannot trust communication channel. Everybody still have their phones, smartphones. Usually people do not abandon technology. Still there are risks, and like normal hygiene, digital hygiene, I think this is very important. Phishing attacks ranks second for the number of threats. First is supply chain attacks, and second is potential leaks through phishing attacks. And I think we should raise awareness. We should and we have to do this. Thank you. Now we have 5 more minutes, and I would like to maybe answer a few questions from Telegram. Alex, how do we connect to your scanner from your organization so that maybe we can get some data from you? Yes, according to the 213 law. Well, it's quite easy. You file a request, you file an application, you tell us about your outer external IP addresses. We also collect domains, email domains, and that's all. We sign a document, and in general, the organization, the work with us is just signing the document, and we define who and what kind of communication channels will be used to send the information, and then you get access to all our incidents, all our services to inform about incidents, to receive help in case an incident occurred, and you will get an access to service for assessment of perimeter protection and security. Alexei, next question. Where common citizens could go if they lost money, they were hacked, they cannot return access, where do general population can go to if they are not experts? Well, actually, a good question always has 50% of an answer. Any citizen. Yeah, I think maybe they should be sent to me. Sure, but maybe you don't need 140 million in your Telegram channel. Yes, so the answer would be to have this kind of services from the government so that common citizens would be able to reply and will be able to get some kind of help, and probably Vladimir can answer too. Originally, there was an idea to have one of the projects and to have a resource where people citizens could reply and report potential incidents, but I think it was not implemented, it never launched. Okay, Vladimir, question to you. Currently, the government promotes a program on artificial intelligence testing mode. Is there a desire for your group of companies to share data sets, since you have access to lots of traffic, and different companies, local and vendors and corporations could use these data sets to train their own information security systems? I think this is a good question. Probably yes, but not through, to share data sets with the companies to create their products, then those will be competitive market stories. We had 3 dialogues at least with companies who said that you have a lot of data sets and you don't really know how to use them. Maybe we should do something together, maybe we should have a joint project. And if we can see a real value for both sides, we do this. But currently, it's not about social load. It's more about business development, honest communication, and honest business competition. Thank you. Yevgeny, question to you. 2 questions. When the Ministry of Digital Development would help stack with databases? And question number 2, are there plans to create an artificial intelligence, some kind of neural firewall to protect citizens from scam calls? Well, answer to the first question is always. All the information which is verified through bug bounty is passed on to regulators, and regulators decide if it will be added to the database of threats or vulnerabilities or not. They have the information and they decide what to do with that. It also depends on the security, so they have their own incidents, they have their own priorities, and they decide what to do with this information. Question number 2 regarding the neural networks and scam calls. Well, in many cases, different neural networks are used, for example, in anti-phishing attacks to discern phishing sites. But in order to fight and counteract frauds and scam calls, well, the system is being developed. In the nearest future, probably no, but in the mid to long term, it's possible. Maybe it will be possible. The system is developing. It's just a mechanism. If we need that, and if we understand it will be effective, why not? Alexei, question to you. Probably from your employees. In case you get support in the investigation of incidents, will be getting more forensic experts. Well, actually, we are looking for new experts. We always have vacancies for forensic experts. The problem is that we don't have that many people on the market, and it's quite hard to find a good specialist. Okay, Vladimir, question to you. Maybe we should look towards the implementation of comprehensive solutions to protect common citizens and their families, so that their homes, their cars, smart homes, and personal data will be protected. Maybe something should be done in this regard. And you shouldn't just say, yes, we need some developed answer. Well, globally, the cybersecurity market for BTC does not provide protection from the current threats. And what happened 10 years ago? Because what happened 10 years ago for cybersecurity for the end users? It was just antivirus, and that's all. It was just a threat for your phone. But now everything has changed. The world now has lots of actions, lots of classes of solutions which globally protect your digital persona, and this is the future. We should go there, we should develop there. And the person who asked the question, I think that was a good question. I don't really want to disclose any unnecessary information, but there will be new players on the digital market who will know how to protect citizens from potential threats and leaks in their smart homes, in their mobile application to protect their personal data, and so on. Thank you. Alexei, question to you.
Сервис госсопка. У ВСТЭК аналогичного сервиса нет, и не видно, что
You have a certain service to work with the investigating incidents, but your organization now asks information security to notify about incidents through normal email. Do you plan to add this so that you have this automatic notification system? Well, it actually works, at least it should. Our organization has a certain way to process potential incidents, and within this framework, they build the communication with subcontractors and organizations which respond to them, and we do interact with them. We notify each other on vulnerabilities and on incidents. Okay, thank you. And the last question to everyone. Different agencies and big information security players should talk about Russian shutdowns because those get into the incident. So how do we distinguish between legal scanning from illegal scanning? Well, we should stop fear. We should not be afraid of scanning. Just treat it as a normal practice. Yes, we do collect information on who scans whom, within what kind of agreements, within what kind of contracts. There is a process we have going on together with Roskomnadzor and its capabilities to block. I think this will be regulated. It's not that simple. Just treat it normally. You shouldn't be afraid of that. We will reach a point where scanning is not just scanning. I do agree with Alexei. It's actually quite a complicated point, quite a complicated story. You don't have to be on the blacklist to be blocked, and organizations don't really want to be scanned. And while there is a requirement to open ports for scanning, well, currently we don't have this kind of standard. And I think this is more about coordination issue rather than anything else. This is an active work and it's going on a constant basis. So I agree with Alexei, but there are 2 points. Organizations and the government. The organizations, well, you should be accustomed to be scanned by everyone, and you have to create your information security so that it would not be a problem, and you should know and respond to external threats even faster than anyone or the scanners get to you. It doesn't matter if it's a domestic scanner, it's a foreign scanner, it doesn't matter. From the government point of view, it is very important to create the great Russian firewall so that no one will be able to get from outside and scan Russian organizations. Unfortunately, this isn't true. While everyone in the outer world penetrates everyone, key objects, and use all the scanners available, then from this point of view, to have some very rigid and very severe actions towards Russian players would be wrong. We would decrease our ability to protect ourselves. It's better to work first versus the foreign players, and once we do that, we'll be able to manage everything inside. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear colleagues. We end our discussion. I would like to thank Vladimir Bengin, Alexei Novikov, Evgeny Kasin, and stay tuned. We will continue with our Positive Hug days. We have 2 more days, and thank you for your attention.